There's one thing I wish for you is that you'd stop failing in your life in the desperate attempt to reveal the truth of what happened to you, to get some validation, to become a living protest, a loud echo of your unwitnessed past, for your life to be the most undeniable evidence of the injustice that you had to go through. I wish you'd stop failing as a means to find justice. A justice you will probably never be able to find, and all you end up with is a life in ruins. Thinking that it was serving as a testament to the ruins of your childhood that nobody was looking at, but even now, if anyone is looking at you by the time you're done, all they will see is someone who never lived up to their potential, someone who ruined their lives, and on top of that, they will pity you and wonder, why did they end up this way? The other day, someone left a very poetic comment underneath one of my videos when I was talking about this. And they said, I'm a loser. I should want to be successful, but I don't want to give anything more. My failure to thrive is the last evidence of my memories. The tragic irony of having narcissistic parents is that they will chop off your wings. And every effort you make to individuate, to become yourself, to become authentic, to excel, to really move on with your life in any way, right? So anything you do to find you and to be you will bother them, and they will fight you for it. But then they will also expect you to succeed in life. Makes you furious, right? Thinking about it. It's like, you did all of this and now you expect me to do well? And in a very stubborn, childlike way, you may want to actually not succeed so that you punish them for what they did to you, so that others see what was done to you, and also you can hurt them by making sure that they never enjoy and take credit of your victories, because that's all they do, right? They only take credit from victories and never from your losses. So it would make you furious to think that they would look good, even if they weren't good. And so unconsciously, this may make you a little bit self-destructive, to live a life of failure as a way to visibly show what happened to you, in the hopes that the world would finally see who they really were. And as a bonus, you will see them suffer, because failing has you in this position to say, this is all your fault. And I'm not going to say and argue that it's not their fault, by the way. Actually, I have a whole video called It Actually Is Your Parents' Fault. You should watch it. But at the same time, and in the same breath, I will unfortunately have to say that although they're responsible for abusing you, the responsibility of the aftermath is all yours. The responsibility of you and what you do with you is all yours. And so living your life in the way that you want to try and remind them for what they did will probably indeed kind of piss them off and have them sort of not be so content with that, but in the classic emotional immaturity type of way that they are. If anything, they'll feel justified for what they did to you. They're like, see, they were the problem all along. That's why I was treating them this way. I was right to think they're problematic. There was always something wrong with them. So look at this. You are living a life based on a goal that you can't even achieve. Because you may achieve the failing part, but you're not achieving any revenge because their self-righteousness will not let them. And also, if anything, they'll become your victims on top of everything. Will never acknowledge that this was their fault or their responsibility. And I think you should know that by now. It takes a lot of emotional maturity to take ownership, not only for yourself, but for what you have done to others. And emotionally mature parents are not necessarily quite famous for that. They're famous for a lot of things, but not for accountability. or responsibility or apologizing or understanding or learning from their mistakes. They will die on the hill of their self-righteousness, and they would rather be right than you be happy. So here you are failing at this goal of revenge or whatever, trying to pursue this justice, but achieving the goal of failing in your life. You're achieving to stay stuck, to dwell on the past, resentful and angry with everyone, but now on top of it, with yourself, because at some point you're going to start to see how this has all been done from you. This absolutely something that you've been doing this entire time that gets in the way of you doing better, because unconsciously you may have decided you want to be a living protest and to do all of this failing as a way to bring justice, but consciously you're trying so hard. And it's harder to do everything, every simple little thing. Or even when you do it, you have this horrible belief about who you are that you just can't remove. Because the destination is failure, no matter what. The end goal is going to be failure. And so even if you're not failing, in your eyes, you'll always be failing. But you're consciously trying so hard to succeed, and at some point, you will agree with them. You'll say, look at that, I'll never amount to anything. They were right. I am problematic. Something is wrong with me. But you know what? Nothing is wrong with you. You just treat it like garbage. And so you believe that you are garbage. And garbage's only voice is how bad it smells and how horribly it looks. A reminder that it's there and it's been thrown there and somebody's responsible for the state that it's in. Somebody said the other day that they graduated on the dean's list on a top university. Everybody was thinking so highly of themselves. And he said, but I hate myself and I could see myself ending up homeless from depression. No point to anything. So you see, whatever we are trying to do at the end of the day, it never feels like we are doing what we wish we would be doing, because we know we're falling short. We're falling short of who we know we can be. And that's really painful to experience, because we are not good enough even for ourselves, let alone anybody else. And so all of this so-called self-sabotage, it's actually an unconscious commitment to stay stuck. But then that process and staying in that commitment ends up you hating yourself and ruining your life. You know, it's very typical in some perfectly looking families that someone falls into addiction or does something really drastic because they're a symptom that cannot be hidden and inevitably tells a secret of this perfect family. If the world was to listen, right, and they would see behind these facades of these families, they won't be like, oh, but how did they turn out this way? What happened to them? They were like, I wonder what's going on in that home for that child to turn to this now. Because children in our lives really are symptoms for a good portion until we pick up the responsibility. If we don't do anything with our lives after trauma, anything we experience is going to be a symptom of what happened to us, because whatever happened to us shaped us, our beliefs. We've created the ceiling we have, which is quite low, or at the same time is quite high, but we would never get there. So we have these immense fluctuation of trying to get really high, but then not really being able to go there because we don't think we can do it. So all of that mess from the feedback that we got, that no matter what we do is never good enough. And so we are not good enough. And in the process of doing all of this, letting our lives just be a symptom of our childhood, we realize we're not even good enough for our standards of our own selves, for knowing what we could be doing, but we're still not good enough. Like this person was doing great in their lives and they're expecting the worst outcome. I do wonder who told them this. I wonder who told them you're probably going to end up homeless. I know you want justice, and you also don't want to make them proud, consciously or unconsciously at this point. It could be both. You want them to be forced to see how monumentally they failed you, but they won't see it. Ruining your entire life to get them to pay a price they will never really pay or comprehend why they need to pay is a bit of a waste. I wish you'd stop postponing yourself in the quest of a justice that will never be served in the way that you are fantasizing it will. But maybe justice can come through you reclaiming what wasn't given to you. They do, after all, say that revenge is the biggest revenge is succeeding, right? Not that I want you to think about them or trying to revenge them or anything, but almost like do the opposite. Instead of trying to get them to see what they did to you, if you want to get them to see anything, is how much you've been able to do even after what they did to you. Which of course they'll take the credit, but if you were to weigh the options of, oh, I want them to feel horribly, so I will fail my entire life, or I'm going to do great and they'll take credit, you're going to have an intimate conversation with yourself there to decide which one would be worse. So in the grand scheme of things, all these souvenirs for your past to be continuously experienced over and over again until your life is in ruins and you're like, you see, Mom, it's your fault. You see, Dad, it's your fault. Or that one day you're like, you know what? They can take all the credit, but I know very well that anything that I've achieved, I've done it despite them, not because of them. So maybe it's time to ask yourself, how are you protesting about what happened to you? How are you pursuing justice for all of this unfairness? And what would be the end goal of this march to failure that you're on? Is there some type of recognition or award at the end of it? Or you will end up hating your own self for throwing your life and opportunities away, but at the same time have someone else to blame for it. And at some point you will see that even that becomes the excuse. It's like, when you're watching the Olympics and you're like, oh, I could do that. I bet I could do that if I practice. It's safe for you to say that when you're sitting on your couch, but I dare you. Go and do that, right? The same. It's like, if they didn't treat me this way, you know what I would achieve? Yeah, but also at some point, you're going to have to catch up. There's things that you're going to have to do more than others, but at some point you can catch up. If you decide to catch up and instead of going towards failure, you decide to go towards your life. The commitment to justice or this revenge that you're on is keeping you stuck in the wrong direction. The past. I wish you'd stop failing in life in the desperate attempt to reveal what happened to you, and instead you seek justice through reclaiming what was never given to you. The luxury to be yourself. Emotional safety, to dream, to explore, to learn, to live life without being burdened by others. And the more committed you stay to this unconscious quest for revenge, or to hold on to the memories of your past or the proof of what happened to you, the harder it gets to even think about starting over in your life. Because, as I said before, the natural byproduct of what happened to you is most likely failure. Without your intervention and changing course and doing some inner work, as I very, very clearly explained thoroughly in my last video called Your Parents Program You to Fail, that's what you're headed. You're headed towards failure, unfortunately, with the beliefs that you carry, with everything you've been told, with how you've been prepped for life. You weren't really equipped to thrive. Unfortunately, that's not what abuse primes you for. So, as I'm going to read another last comment that I also really like, because I've been talking about this topic for a while now on another platform. And someone said something very beautiful that I think sums up my message too. They said, "I'm not defined by the carnage. I'm responsible for my part, and that means I can move through and past it." So, are you the proof of the truth of what happened to you? Or are you going to commit to reclaiming your life? Until the past is only just a distant echo that reminds you of how much you've overcome. Even though all of those things happened to you, and even though so many things didn't happen for you, but you came a long way. That's all for me today. I'll see you guys soon. Oh, if this resonated, I've created a beautiful hypnotic experience. Check it out, it's in the description box.